Let me tell you a marvelous thing. Your consciousness, your I amness, is the only reality. Everything that you perceive in your world, everything that you experience in your daily life, is but an expression of your consciousness made manifest. The art of mental discipline. Tonight I shall share with you how to master the divine art of mental discipline. For you see, your thoughts are not mere passive occurrences in your mind. They are living, breathing seeds that must inevitably grow into the circumstances of your life. Let us begin with a fundamental truth. Every moment of your life you are thinking. But are you thinking from the end? Are you thinking from the state of your wish fulfilled? This is the crux of mental discipline, the law of consciousness. I want you to understand this profound truth. Whatever you are conscious of being, you become. This is the law, and it cannot fail. If you persist in maintaining a particular state in your consciousness, it must externalize itself in your world. It must, for this is the law. Consider this. When you go to your bedroom tonight, you will naturally assume that you are in your bed. You don't hope you're in your bed. You don't wish you were in your bed. You simply are in your bed. This is the naturalness I speak of. This is the state of consciousness that creates the 4 pillars of mental discipline. Let me share with you what I call the 4 pillars of mental discipline. These are the fundamental principles that will allow you to master your thoughts and therefore master your life. First pillar, the state of I am. Your I am is your consciousness, your true self. Whatever follows your I am, you become. When you say I'm tired, you become tired. When you say I am wealthy, you become wealthy. The I am in you is God himself. And whatever you attach to it becomes your reality. Practice this throughout your day. Become aware of what you're attaching to your I am. Are you saying I am sick? I am broke? I am unlucky? Change these statements. Begin to attach to your I am only what you wish to be true. Second pillar, living from the end. This is crucial, my dear friends. You must learn to think and feel from the end. What do I mean by this? I mean, you must assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled. If you desire wealth, you must think from wealth, not about wealth. Let me give you an example. Suppose you desire to be a successful author. Don't think about becoming an author. Instead, assume the feeling of being a successful author now. How would you feel? What would you think? How would you walk? How would you talk? Assume that state now. Third pillar, the law of revision. Here is a wonderful technique I've used countless times. At the end of each day, before you sleep, revise the events that didn't go as you wished. See them play out exactly as you would have wanted them to occur. You see, memory is imagination. The past exists only in your mind, and you can revise it. By revising the day's events, you are actually restructuring your consciousness, which will then create new and better circumstances in your future. Fourth pillar, persistent assumption. Now let me share with you something profound about persistence. It's not enough to imagine your desire once or twice. You must persist in your assumption until it hardens into fact. Think of it like this. When you plant a seed in the ground, you don't dig it up every day to see if it's growing. You water it, you tend to it, and you trust in the law of growth. The same is true with your thoughts. The practice of mental discipline. Let me now share with you the practical application of these principles. This is how you discipline your thoughts in your daily life. Morning practice. When you wake in the morning, before you rise from your bed, assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Feel the naturalness of having what you desire. Don't just visualize it, feel it. Feel the joy, the satisfaction, the completeness of having your desire fulfilled. Daytime vigilance. Throughout your day, watch your mental diet. Your thoughts are like food for your consciousness. Would you eat spoiled food? Then why feed your mind with negative thoughts? When a negative thought arises, don't fight it. Simply replace it with its positive opposite. Remember, what you resist persists. What you accept and replace dissolves. Evening revision. Before sleep, review your day. But don't review it as it happened. Review it as you would have wanted it to happen. This is the art of revision, and it's one of the most powerful tools you possess. The power of feeling. Let me share something crucial about feeling. It's not enough to simply think the right thoughts, you must feel them to be true. The feeling is the secret. When you combine thought with feeling, you create with the full power of your consciousness. Feel the reality of your desire now. Feel its naturalness. Feel as though it were already accomplished. For in truth, in the realm of consciousness, it is already accomplished. Overcoming mental resistance. Now, you might experience resistance when you begin this practice. Your rational mind might say, this isn't true. This isn't real. But remember, your rational mind can only tell you what has been, not what can be. The secret is to persist despite the evidence of your senses. Your senses show you the world as it was created by your past thoughts. Your imagination shows you the world as it can be, created by your disciplined thoughts. The power of silent awareness. Here's a wonderful practice I want to share with you. Throughout your day, take moments of silent awareness. Become conscious of your I amness. Feel your existence, your beingness. From this state of pure awareness, you can more easily direct your thoughts. The art of mental construction. Think of your mind as a magnificent mansion. Each thought is a room in this mansion. Through mental discipline, you become the architect of this mansion. You decide which rooms to build, which to renovate, and which to demolish. When you catch yourself in a negative thought, say to yourself, this is not the room I choose to dwell in. Then consciously construct a new thought, a new room furnished with your desires fulfilled. The practice of gratitude. Gratitude is a powerful tool for mental discipline. When you feel grateful for something, you're acknowledging its reality in your consciousness. Practice feeling grateful for your desires as though they were already fulfilled. The law of assumption in action. Let me share with you a principle that never fails. Assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, and then live and act from that assumption. This is the secret of mental discipline, to think, feel, and act from the end. If you desire wealth, assume the feeling of wealth now. How does a wealthy person think? How does a wealthy person feel? Assume that state and maintain it despite all evidence to the contrary. The power of your mental diet. Just as you carefully choose what food you eat, choose your thoughts with equal care. Your mental diet determines your life experience. Feed your mind with thoughts of success, love, abundance, and joy. When negative thoughts arise, and they will, don't fight them. Simply observe them and let them pass like clouds in the sky. Then consciously choose better thoughts. The practice of mental discipline. Throughout your day, practice these principles. Watch your I am statements. Think from the end. Revise unwanted events. Persist in your assumption. Maintain a healthy mental diet. Practice gratitude. Stay in silent awareness. Remember, your consciousness is the only reality. Everything in your world is a reflection of your consciousness. By disciplining your thoughts, you literally reshape your world. Concluding words. My dear friends, remember this. You are the operant power in your world. Your consciousness creates your reality. By disciplining your thoughts, you're not just changing your mind, you're changing your entire world. Practice these principles. Apply them diligently. For when you master the art of mental discipline, you master the art of living itself. Let me tell you a story that illustrates this principle perfectly. Recently, a lady came to me in despair about her financial situation. She had been thinking thoughts of lack, of poverty, of not enough. I asked her to do something that seemed radical at the time, to completely ignore the evidence of her senses and instead live in the assumption of wealth. The continuous state of awareness. You see, mental discipline isn't something you practice for an hour and then abandon. It must become your continuous state of awareness. When you wake in the morning, your first thought should be from the state of your wish fulfilled. When you walk down the street, walk as the person you wish to be. When you speak, speak from the consciousness of your desire achieved. The secret of mental persistence. Here's a wonderful secret. Your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between what you're imagining and what's real. When you persist in maintaining a disciplined thought pattern, your subconscious mind must accept it as fact. And what the subconscious accepts, it must externalize in your world. The 3 states of thought. Consider these 3 states of thought. The surface thoughts. These are your casual, everyday thoughts that flow through your mind like leaves on a stream. The intermediate thoughts. These are your more deliberate thoughts, the ones you consciously choose to think. The deep, persistent thoughts. These are the thoughts that you have impressed upon your subconscious through repetition and feeling. Your work is to move your desired thoughts from the surface level to the deep level through conscious discipline and persistence. The art of mental rehearsal. Practice this technique before any important event in your life. Rehearse it mentally from the end. See it completed perfectly. Feel the satisfaction of its perfect completion. Do this repeatedly until it feels natural and real to you. The power of I remember when. Here's another powerful technique for thought discipline. Instead of saying I want or I will, use the phrase one remember when. For example, instead of saying I want to be wealthy, say I remember when I was struggling financially before I became wealthy. This puts your mind in the position of looking back on the fulfillment of your desire, rather than looking forward to it. It's a subtle but powerful shift in consciousness. The silent knowing. Develop what I call the silent knowing. This is a state of absolute certainty about your desire's fulfillment. It's not hoping, not wishing, not wanting. It's knowing. This knowing comes from disciplined thought focused on the end result. The practice of mental cleansing. Just as you cleanse your body, you must cleanse your mind. Each night before sleep, review your thoughts of the day. Which ones serve your desired end? Which ones oppose it? Consciously release the opposing thoughts and strengthen the supporting ones. The law of dual thought. Remember this principle: you cannot hold 2 opposing thoughts simultaneously. When you find yourself thinking an unwanted thought, immediately replace it with its positive opposite. This is mental discipline in action. The final key. And now, my dear wonderful friends, let me give you the final key to mastering your thoughts. Is this: love your present reality while simultaneously dwelling in your desired state. This seems paradoxical, but it's crucial for successful mental discipline. Don't hate where you are while trying to get where you want to be. Instead, appreciate your current reality while knowing, absolutely knowing, that your desired state is already yours in consciousness. The promise. I promise you this: if you will discipline your thoughts as I have outlined tonight, if you will persist in maintaining the consciousness of your wish fulfilled, if you will live from the end rather than toward it, your world must conform to your disciplined imagination. For this is the law of consciousness: whatever you assume to be true, whatever you persist in believing, must become your reality. The daily application. My dear friends, before you leave tonight, let me share with you something profound about the daily application of these principles. You see, mental discipline is not merely a practice, it is a way of life. The morning protocol. When you awaken each morning, before you even open your eyes, lie still in your bed and practice this protocol. First, feel your I am-ness. Feel your existence, your beingness. This is God within you, the only creative power there is. Then, from this state of pure awareness, consciously choose the thoughts you will entertain for the day. Remember, the first hour of your morning shapes the nature of your entire day. Guard these precious moments with complete awareness, the state akin to sleep. There's something marvelous about the moments just before sleep and just after waking. In these drowsy states, your subconscious mind is most receptive to new impressions. Use these golden moments wisely. In this state akin to sleep, impress upon your mind the absolute reality of your desire fulfilled. Feel it. Live it, be it. Let this be the last state of consciousness you experience before sleep claims you. The secret of mental posture. Consider your mental posture throughout the day. Just as your physical posture affects how you feel and perform, your mental posture determines what you attract and create. Stand tall in your mind. Walk through your day from the consciousness of your wish fulfilled. speak, act, and respond to life from this elevated state of being. The art of mental forgetting. Here's a profound secret many miss. The art of mental discipline includes knowing what to forget. You must learn to forget the old story, the old limitations, the old excuses. When the old story tries to assert itself, and it will, gently but firmly dismiss it. Say to yourself, that was then. This is now. I choose to dwell in the consciousness of my wish fulfilled. The power of repeated assumption. Let me share with you something crucial about mental discipline. It's not enough to assume your desire once or twice. You must live in that assumption until it becomes your dominant feeling. Think of it like this. When you move to a new home, at first it feels strange, unfamiliar. But through continued living there, it becomes natural, familiar, yours. The same principle applies to your new mental state. The practice of mental fidelity. Be faithful to your disciplined thoughts as you would be faithful to a beloved spouse. Don't flirt with negative thoughts. Don't entertain doubts. Stay true to your chosen state of consciousness. Remember, what you are faithful to, you create. What you are loyal to in consciousness must manifest in your world. The law of mental equivalence. Understanding this law is crucial. For every outer condition, there must be an inner equivalent. Your external world is simply the reflection of your disciplined or undisciplined thoughts. Want to change your outer world? Change your inner equivalent through disciplined thought and feeling. The Sabbath of the mind. Practice what I call the Sabbath of the mind. Periods throughout your day when you completely rest from effort and simply dwell in the consciousness of your wish fulfilled. These mental Sabbaths are crucial. They allow your new thoughts to take root and grow without the interference of doubt or anxiety. The power of mental conviction. Develop an unshakable conviction in the power of your disciplined thoughts. This conviction comes through practice and experience. Test these principles in small things first, then graduate to larger desires. Remember, the law works the same whether you're manifesting a parking space or a palace. The only difference is in your level of conviction. The art of mental acceptance. Accept, truly accept, that your consciousness is the only reality. Your world is simply consciousness objectified. Once you accept this truth, mental discipline becomes not just a practice, but a joyous responsibility. The final practice. And now, my dear friends, let me give you one final practice before we part. Tonight, when you lay your head upon your pillow, do this. Feel the absolute reality of your desire fulfilled. Feel it with all your heart. Feel the gratitude, the joy, the satisfaction of having what you desire. Fall asleep in this feeling. For remember, the feeling is the secret. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is the secret of creation, the eternal truth. As we conclude this evening, remember this eternal truth. You are not seeking something outside yourself. You are simply selecting a state of consciousness to occupy. Through mental discipline, you choose which state you will dwell in. The promise renewed. I promise you this, practice these principles faithfully, maintain mental discipline consistently, and your world must by law conform to your disciplined imagination. For consciousness is the only reality, and your disciplined thoughts are the tools with which you shape that reality. The final word. Go forth tonight with this knowledge. You are not a helpless victim of your thoughts. You are the master of your mind, the author of your experience, the creator of your reality. Through disciplined thought, you can and will create the life you desire. Remember, your consciousness is God, and your disciplined imagination is your direct link to this infinite creative power. Use it wisely, use it lovingly, and use it constantly. And now, as we conclude this evening, take a moment to feel the absolute reality of your desire fulfilled. Feel it with all your heart. Know it with all your being. For in this feeling and knowing lies the power that transforms your world. Test this law. Prove it to yourself. For in the testing lies your freedom, and in the proving lies your power. Thank you, and good night. My dear wonderful friends, tonight we will explore one of the most powerful yet misunderstood principles in the art of manifestation, the divine law of silence and selective association. Many of you have come to me asking, Neville, why do my manifestations sometimes fail? Or why do things seem to fall apart just when they're about to succeed? Tonight I will share with you a profound truth that will transform your understanding of the law. Let me begin by telling you why silence is not merely the absence of speech, but the very foundation of your creative power. In Scripture we read, "Be still and know that I am God." This stillness, this divine silence, is not a mere suggestion. It is the very secret of creation itself. Consider how God created the world. Did he announce his intentions to anyone? Did he seek validation or approval? No, my dear friends. In the depths of silence, in the quiet of his own being, he spoke the words, "Let there be," and it was done. This is your pattern. This is your blueprint. I remember who came to me in New York. She had been trying to manifest a specific position in her company, a position that seemed impossible to obtain given her current status. She had told everyone about her desire, seeking advice, validation, and support. For months, nothing happened. Then she heard this principle of silence and everything changed. She did something remarkable. She cut off all discussion of her desire. She stopped seeking opinions, stopped announcing her intentions, and most importantly, she went into what I call the sacred silence. Within 3 weeks, not only was she offered the position she desired, but she was offered an even better one she hadn't even imagined possible. You see, when you speak of your desires to others, you are diffusing your creative power. Every time you discuss your intentions, you are releasing the pressure of the creative force that should be building within you. It's like puncturing a balloon before it's fully inflated, the air escapes, and the balloon never reaches its intended form. Let me share with you what I call the law of sacred silence. This law states that every desire has its own gestation period, just as every seed has its own time of growth. When you plant a seed in the ground, do you dig it up every day to check its progress? Do you tell everyone about the seed you've planted and ask their opinion on whether it will grow? Of course not. You plant it in the silence of the earth and let it grow undisturbed. Your desires are spiritual seeds, and your consciousness is the soil in which they grow. Every time you speak of your desires to others, you are essentially digging up your seed to show it to the world. How can it grow if you don't give it the silence it needs to take root? But tonight, I want to take you deeper than you've ever gone before into understanding why cutting all contacts is equally crucial to your manifestation. This is not about isolation, it's about insulation. You must insulate your consciousness from the doubts, fears, and limiting beliefs of others. Consider the story of Noah. Before the flood came, he was instructed to enter the ark and seal it. This is not a historical account, but a psychological drama playing out in consciousness. The ark represents your consciousness, and sealing it represents cutting off contact with all that would disturb your assumption of the wish fulfilled. Many of you maintain relationships and connections that constantly pull you back into old states of consciousness. Try to rise to a new level of being while staying connected to those who know you as you were, not as you desire to be. This is like trying to fly while keeping your feet chained to the ground. Let me tell you about a student of mine who understood this principle perfectly. He desired to move from poverty to wealth, but he realized that his daily associations were keeping him anchored in the consciousness of lack. His friends, though well-meaning, constantly spoke of limitations, of how difficult it was to make money, of how the economy was against them. He made a bold decision. He temporarily cut all contacts that reinforced the old state of poverty consciousness. He didn't do this unkindly or abruptly, but he quietly withdrew from circles that kept him tied to the old state. Instead of spending evenings discussing lack with his usual companions, he went into silence and lived in the assumption of his wish fulfilled. The results were extraordinary. Within 6 months, his entire financial reality transformed. But notice something crucial. He didn't announce his intentions to withdraw. He didn't make declarations about cutting contacts. He simply did it in silence, with the same naturalness with which you would close a door to keep out the cold. Now let me share with you what I call the 3 chambers of silence. The first chamber is physical silence, the cessation of speaking about your desires. The second chamber is mental silence, the quieting of internal chatter and doubt. The third chamber, and most profound, is spiritual silence, the complete surrender to the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Many of you enter the first chamber easily enough, You can stop talking about your desires. Some of you even master the second chamber, controlling your thoughts. But it's the third where the real power lies, and this chamber can only be entered when you've cut the ties that bind you to your old state. Think of Lot's wife in Scripture. She was told not to look back at the city she was leaving. This is not a story about physical geography. It's about consciousness. When you're moving into a new state of being, you cannot keep looking back at the old state or maintaining connections with those who are not old state. Let me tell you about the law of state resonance. Everything and everyone in your life is a reflection of the state you occupy. When you try to enter a new state while maintaining connections with those who resonate with your old state, you create a psychological conflict that prevents your complete transformation. I recall a gentleman in Los Angeles who desired to become a renowned author. He had talent, he had ideas, but he remained stuck in obscurity. Why? Because he kept himself surrounded by people who knew him as a struggling writer. Their very presence in his life kept him anchored to that state of struggle. One day, after hearing these principles, he did something that seemed drastic to others, but was perfectly natural to him. He cut all contacts with his writing group, stopped attending literary gatherings where people complained about how hard it was to get published, and went into complete silence about his work. Instead of discussing his book with others, he lived in the silence of his completed wish. He would walk into bookstores and quietly see his book on the shelves. He would silently feel the weight of his published work in his hands. He stopped seeking validation, stopped asking for opinions, and most importantly, stopped connecting with those who knew him as anything less than a successful author. Here's what you must understand about the power of cutting contacts. It's not about avoiding people. It's about avoiding states. Every person in your life represents a state of consciousness. When you maintain connections with those who know you in your old state, you're making it infinitely harder to fully occupy your new state. Consider the biblical instruction, come out from among them and be ye separate. This is not about physical separation, but about separating yourself from states that contradict your desire. When you truly understand this, you'll see why maintaining certain contacts keeps you bound to states you're trying to leave. Let me introduce you to what I call the principle of state solidarity. This principle states that your consciousness naturally seeks alignment with the predominant consciousness of those around you. This is why being around people who knew you in your old state makes it challenging to maintain your new assumption. Think of it like tuning a radio. You're trying to tune into the frequency of your desire, but the old contacts in your life keep pulling the dial back to the old frequency. The solution is not to fight against this pulling. The solution is to remove yourself from the range of the old frequency entirely. Now, some of you might be thinking, but Neville, isn't it selfish to cut contacts with people? Let me tell you something profound. You're not cutting contact with people. You're cutting contact with states. When you successfully establish yourself in your new state, you'll find that some of these people will either transform with you or naturally fall away. Let me share with you what I call the law of silent transformation. When a caterpillar enters its cocoon, it doesn't announce its transformation. It doesn't seek approval from other caterpillars. It doesn't maintain connections with its caterpillar life. In perfect silence, in complete isolation, it undergoes its magnificent transformation. This is your pattern. When you're transforming into a new state of consciousness, you must enter your own psychological cocoon. This is why silence and cutting contacts are not just helpful suggestions. They are spiritual imperatives. I remember a woman in my New York lectures who desired marriage. She had been dating for years, constantly discussing her relationships with friends, always seeking advice, always maintaining connections with people who knew her as the single friend. She was constantly in what I call the state of seeking. After learning these principles, she did something revolutionary. She cut all contacts with her dating circles, stopped discussing relationships entirely, and withdrew from the constant social commentary about her love life. Instead, she went into complete silence and lived in the assumption of being happily married. Her friends thought she had become antisocial. Some even criticized her for withdrawing, but she understood something they didn't. She couldn't become the woman she desired to be while maintaining connections that kept her in the state of seeking. Here's what you must understand about the power of silence. It's not merely the absence of noise, it's the presence of power. When you go into silence about your desires, when you cut contacts with those who know you as you were, you are creating a vacuum in consciousness. And nature abhors a vacuum? Let me introduce you to the 4 stages of silent creation. The first stage is recognition, recognizing that your current contacts and conversations are keeping you bound to your old state. The second stage is withdrawal, quietly removing yourself from environments and relationships that reinforce the old state. The third stage is silence, maintaining complete silence about your transformation. The fourth stage is emergence, naturally revealing your new state once it's fully embodied. Most people fail because they try to skip stages. They recognize the need for change, but maintain all their old contacts. They try to withdraw, but keep announcing their withdrawal. They attempt silence, but keep checking if it's working. Remember, a seed doesn't grow faster because you keep checking on it. Consider Joseph in Scripture. When he received his dream of greatness, did he maintain connections with those who knew him as a slave? No. He was separated from all his old contacts, placed in what appeared to be adverse circumstances. But these very circumstances were preparing him for his transformation. This brings us to what I call the principle of sacred separation. Just as a pregnant woman carries her unborn child in the silence and privacy of her psalm, you must carry your desire in the silence and privacy of your consciousness. Every time you discuss it, every time you maintain contact with those who doubt it, you're exposing your unborn desire to harmful elements. Let me tell you about a businessman who came to me in desperate circumstances. His company was failing, and he had been constantly discussing his problems with everyone who would listen. His entire network consisted of people who knew him as the owner of a struggling business. I shared with him these principles, and he understood them at a deep level. He stopped attending business networking events where people discussed market difficulties. He cut contacts with his commiseration circle, those friends who gathered to share business troubles. He went into complete silence about his company status. Instead of seeking advice, he sought silence. Instead of maintaining connections that reinforced failure, he insulated his consciousness in the assumption of success. To the outside world, he seemed to have become a recluse. But in the silence of his consciousness, a transformation was taking place. What happened next illustrates perfectly what I call the law of silent attraction. Within 3 months, his business began attracting opportunities that had been there all along, but were invisible to him while he was in the state of struggle and constant discussion. You see, when you're constantly talking about your problems, constantly maintaining contacts with those who reinforce your limitations, you're blind to the opportunities surrounding you. Let me share with you the deeper metaphysical reason why silence and cutting contacts are so crucial. In Scripture, we read, "In returning and rest shall ye be saved. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength." This is not merely poetic language, it's a precise description of the law of consciousness. When you maintain silence and cut contacts with the old state, you're doing something profound. You're creating what I call a consciousness vacuum. Nature must fill this vacuum, but it can only fill it with whatever corresponds to your assumed state. Consider this principle. Every person in your life is a mirror reflecting back to you your state of consciousness. When you maintain contacts with those who knew you in your old state, you're constantly being reminded of who you were, not who you desire to be. This is why cutting contacts is not an act of rejection, but an act of spiritual wisdom. I remember a teacher who came to me. She had been trying to manifest a position at a prestigious university, but she kept herself surrounded by colleagues who knew her as a struggling substitute teacher. Every conversation, every interaction, every relationship reinforced her current state. She understood these principles and did something that seemed radical to others. She quietly withdrew from her regular social circles. She stopped attending teachers' gatherings where the conversation centered around limited opportunities. She cut contacts with those who consistently reminded her of her current circumstances. Instead, she went into what I call the silence of assumption. In this silence, free from the constant reinforcement of her old state, she lived completely in the assumption of being a distinguished professor. She didn't tell anyone about this inner transformation. She didn't seek validation. She simply lived in the silence of her fulfilled desire. Here's what you must understand about the power of sacred isolation. When you isolate yourself from influences that contradict your desired state, you're not being antisocial, you're being spiritually wise. Just as a scientist must create a controlled environment for certain experiments, you must create a controlled environment in consciousness for your transformation. Let me introduce you to what I call the 7 seals of silence. The first seal is physical withdrawal, removing yourself from environments that reinforce the old state. The second seal is social disconnection, cutting contacts with those who know you only as you were. The third seal is conversational silence, refusing to discuss your transformation or desire. The fourth seal is mental quietude, silencing the internal dialogue about your past state. The fifth seal is emotional stillness, maintaining calm confidence in your assumption. The sixth seal is spiritual insulation, protecting your consciousness from doubt and disbelief. The seventh seal is complete absorption, living entirely in the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Each of these seals must be maintained if you wish to complete your transformation. Breaking even one seal can allow the old state to seep back into your consciousness. Consider the biblical story of the 3 wise men. After they saw the Christ child, they were warned in a dream not to return to Herod. This is a psychological truth. Once you've conceived your new state, seeing the Christ child, you must not return to the old state, Herod. You must take another way home. Now let me share with you what I call the ultimate law of silent achievement. When you understand this law, you'll never again question the power of silence and selective contact. Every great achievement in history, every significant transformation has followed this pattern of silence and sacred isolation. Think of Jesus going into the wilderness for 40 days. Think of Buddha leaving his palace and social circles. Think of every great inventor, artist, or visionary who withdrew from society to birth their creation. This is not coincidence, it's law. Let me tell you about my own experience with this principle. When I first discovered these truths, I didn't announce them to the world. I went into silence. I cut contacts with those who knew me as the old man. In that silence, in that sacred isolation, I experienced what I call the great knowing. Here's what you must do starting tonight. First, make a solemn covenant with yourself, a covenant of silence. No more discussing your desires, your plans, your transformations with anyone. Second, begin what I call the great withdrawal, systematically cutting contacts with those who hold you in your old state. But remember, this is not about physical isolation, it's about state isolation. You're not rejecting people, you're rejecting states of consciousness that no longer serve your transformation. I'll share with you the 5 commands of silent power. Thou shalt not speak of thy desire to anyone. Thou shalt cut all contacts that anchor thee to the old state. Thou shalt live completely in the silence of thy wish fulfilled. Thou shalt not return to check on thy progress. Thou shalt maintain thy silence until thy manifestation is complete. These commands are not suggestions, they are spiritual laws that must be obeyed if you wish to transform your reality. Consider this final principle I call the law of silent emergence. Just as a butterfly emerges from its cocoon, only when its transformation is complete, you should only re-emerge into the world when your new state is fully embodied. Let me tell you about the 3 signs of complete transformation. First, when your new state feels more natural than your old state. Second, when maintaining silence requires no effort. Third, when your old contacts naturally fall away or transform to match your new state. Remember, my dear friends, that silence is not the absence of sound, it's the presence of power. Cutting contacts is not the absence of relationship. It's the presence of spiritual wisdom. As we conclude tonight's talk, I want to leave you with this final truth. Your world is your consciousness pushed out. Every person, every circumstance, every condition in your life is there because of the state you occupy. When you change your state in silence, when you cut contacts with the old state, you automatically change your world. Go forth now in doubt, not in fear, but in the absolute knowing that as you maintain your silence, as you cut contacts with the old state, your transformation must manifest its law. Remember these words from Scripture. Be still and know that I am God. This stillness, this silence, this sacred isolation, this is your path to transformation. And now, my dear wonderful friends, as we close this evening, take with you this solemn truth: your silence is your power. Your withdrawal from the old state is your pathway to the new. Maintain this silence, maintain this sacred isolation, and watch as your world transforms to match your silent assumption. For in the end, it is not in the noise of the world, but in the silence of your consciousness that all things are created. It is not in maintaining old contacts, but in sacred isolation that transformation occurs. Go now in silence and confidence in the absolute knowing that what you desire is already yours. For in consciousness, all things are possible to him who believes and maintains the silence of that belief. Good night and God bless you all.
My dear friends, our topic, to grow you must suffer, may at first seem paradoxical, even disheartening. But I assure you, within this statement lies the key to unlocking your greatest potential, to manifesting your deepest desires, and to truly realizing the divine nature that resides within you. Now, when I speak of suffering, I do not mean the needless pain that we often inflict upon ourselves through our misguided thoughts and beliefs. No, the suffering I speak of is the deliberate, conscious choice to step out of our comfort zones, to challenge our long-held assumptions, and to embrace the discomfort that inevitably comes with transformation. You see, my beloved, we are all God in disguise. We are the infinite consciousness that has taken on human form, and within us lies the power to create and shape our reality. But to fully realize this power, to truly embody our divine nature, we must be willing to shed our old selves, our limited beliefs, and our comfortable illusions. And this shedding, this transformation, inevitably involves a degree of suffering. Think for a moment of the caterpillar. In order to become the beautiful butterfly it is destined to be, it must first enter the chrysalis. Within this dark, confined space, it undergoes a complete transformation. Soul form literally dissolves. And from this dissolution, a new form emerges. Can you imagine the discomfort, the uncertainty, the sheer intensity of this process? Yet without this period of suffering, of dissolution and reformation, the caterpillar could never become the butterfly. We too must be willing to enter our own chrysalis. We must be willing to dissolve our old selves, our limiting beliefs, our comfortable but constraining identities. Only through this process can we emerge as the magnificent beings we truly are. But here's the crucial point, my dear friends. This suffering is not something that happens to us. It is something we choose. It is an act of will, a deliberate decision to grow, to evolve, to become more than we currently are. In this choice lies our power, our divinity, our ability to shape our own. Now you might be wondering, Neville, how can I choose to suffer? Isn't suffering something we naturally avoid? And to this I say, it all begins with your imagination. For as I have always taught, your imagination is the God within you. It is the creative power through which you shape your reality. So, I invite you now to close your eyes. Imagine yourself as you wish to be. See yourself embodying the qualities you desire, living the life you dream of. Feel the joy, the fulfillment, the sense of purpose that comes with this vision. Now, what I let go of to become this person? What comfortable illusions, what limiting beliefs, what aspects of my current self must I be willing to sacrifice? As you contemplate these questions, you may feel a sense of resistance, of fear, of discomfort. This, my beloved, is the suffering I speak of. It is the natural response of your current self to the prospect of change, of transformation. But remember, this suffering is not your enemy. It is the signpost pointing the way to your growth, to your evolution, to the realization of your true divine nature. Now, you might be thinking, but Neville, isn't this at odds with your teachings about the law of assumption? Haven't you always said that we should assume the feeling of our wish fulfilled? And to this I say, there is no contradiction. For in choosing to suffer for your growth, in willingly embracing the discomfort of transformation, you are in fact assuming the state of one who is committed to their evolution, who is willing to do whatever it takes to manifest their desired reality. You see, the law of assumption is not about avoiding all discomfort or difficulty. It's about aligning your thoughts, your feelings, your very being with the reality you wish to create. And sometimes that alignment requires us to move through discomfort, to face our fears, to challenge our limitations. In doing so, we are assuming the state of one who is capable of growth, of transformation, of manifesting their desires against all odds. Consider for a moment the great figures of history, the spiritual masters, the innovators, the revolutionaries. Did they achieve their greatness by remaining comfortable, by avoiding all suffering? No, they willingly embraced the challenges, the difficulties, the suffering that came with pursuing their vision. They understood that this suffering was not an obstacle to their growth, but the very means by which they would achieve it. So too must we be willing to embrace our own suffering, our own challenges, our own transformative experiences. For in doing so, we are not victims of circumstance, but conscious creators of our own evolution. We are God in action, shaping our reality through our willingness to grow, to change, to become more than we currently are. Now, let us delve deeper into the nature of this suffering. It is not physical pain or external hardship that I speak of, though these may sometimes be part of our journey. No, the suffering I refer to is primarily internal. It is the discomfort of challenging our own beliefs, of questioning our assumptions. This suffering might manifest as the anxiety you feel when you step out of your comfort zone. It might be the sense of loss you experience as you let go of old identities or relationships that no longer serve your growth. It might be the confusion and uncertainty that comes with questioning long-held beliefs or ways of being. But here's the beautiful truth, my dear friends. This suffering is temporary. It is a bridge, a passage, a transformative process. On the other side of this suffering lies growth, expansion, and a deeper realization of your true nature. Think of it like this. When you exercise your physical body, you experience discomfort. Your muscles strain, your breath becomes labored, you may even feel pain. But it is through this very discomfort that your body grows stronger, more resilient, more capable. The suffering is temporary, but the growth, the transformation is lasting. So too is it with our spiritual and personal growth. The discomfort we feel as we challenge our limitations, as we step into new ways of being, as we align ourselves with our highest vision, this discomfort is the very means by which we grow, is the resistance against which we push to become stronger, more aligned. But remember, my beloved, you are not alone in this process. For the God within you, your own wonderful human imagination, is always with you, always supporting you, always guiding you towards your highest good. This God power within you knows the end from the beginning. It sees the magnificent butterfly even as you struggle within the chrysalis. So, as you embrace the suffering that comes with growth, I urge you to lean on this inner power. Use your imagination to see beyond the current discomfort, to hold fast to the vision of what you are becoming. For as you hold this vision, as you assume the feeling of already being that which you desire to be, you set in motion the forces that will bring this vision into reality. Now, let us address a common misconception. Some may hear this teaching and think that it advocates for a life of constant struggle, of unending hardship. But this is not so. The suffering I speak of is purposeful, intentional. It is not about seeking out pain or difficulty for its own sake, but about being willing to move through discomfort for the sake of your growth, your evolution, your self-realization. Moreover, as you embrace this approach to growth, as you become more comfortable with the discomfort of transformation, you will find that your capacity for joy, for peace, for fulfillment actually expands. For you are no longer at the mercy of external circumstances, no longer limited by your fears or doubts. You become free to fully express your divine nature, to live from a place of power and purpose. Consider that. Have you ever achieved something significant, something that required great effort and perseverance? Perhaps you completed a challenging project, overcame a fear, or mastered a new skill. Remember the sense of accomplishment, the joy, the expanded sense of self that came with this achievement. This is the fruit of growth through suffering. The discomfort you experienced in the process was temporary, but the growth, the expansion, the realization of your capabilities, these are lasting. My dear friends, I invite you to embrace this truth. To grow, you must suffer. But know that this suffering is not a punishment, not a burden, but a gift. It is the means by which you shed your limitations, realize your potential, and step into the fullness of your divine nature. As you go forth from here, I encourage you to look at the challenges in your life with new eyes. See them not as obstacles to be avoided, but as opportunities for growth, for transformation, for the expression of your divine nature. Ask yourselves, what am I being called to let go of? What comfort zone am I being invited to step out of? What aspect of my divine nature is seeking expression through this challenge? And as you contemplate these questions, remember that you have within you the power to choose your response. You can choose to shrink back, to avoid the discomfort, to remain as you are. Or you can choose to lean in, to embrace the challenge, to willingly step into the chrysalis of transformation. My beloved, I urge you to choose the latter. For in doing so, you are choosing to align yourself with the creative power of the universe. You are choosing to be an active participant in your own evolution, in the unfolding of your divine nature. Now, let us delve deeper into the practical application of this principle. How do we actually embrace suffering for the sake of growth? How do we navigate the discomfort of transformation while maintaining our faith in the process? First and foremost, we must cultivate awareness. We must become conscious observers of our own thoughts, feelings, and reactions. When you encounter a challenge or a difficulty, pause. Take a breath. Observe your initial reaction. Do you feel fear? Resistance? A desire to retreat to what's familiar and comfortable. Acknowledge these feelings without judgment. They are natural responses of your current self, your current state of consciousness. But remember, you are not bound by these reactions. You have the power to choose your response. In that moment of awareness, you have the opportunity to make a conscious choice. Will you allow your fear or discomfort to dictate your actions? Or will you choose to move forward, to embrace the challenge as an opportunity for growth? This choice, my dear friends, is where your power lies. It is in this moment that you can align yourself with your highest vision, with the divine nature within you. It is here that you can choose to suffer, to move through discomfort for the sake of your growth. But how do we find the strength to make this choice, especially when the discomfort feels overwhelming? This is where the power of your imagination comes into play. For as I have always taught, your imagination is your direct link to the divine, to the creative power of the universe. So, in that moment of choice, I invite you to use your imagination. Close your eyes and see yourself as you wish to be. Feel the strength, the courage, the divine power flowing through you. Imagine yourself moving through the challenge with grace and ease, growing stronger and more aligned with each step. As you hold this image in your mind, as you feel the reality of it in your body, you are tapping into the God power within you. You are aligning yourself with the version of you that has already overcome this challenge, that has already grown through this suffering. From this aligned state, you will find the strength to embrace the discomfort, to move forward despite your fears or doubts. For you are no longer acting from your limited current self, but from the expanded divine self that you are in the process of becoming. Now, as you begin to consciously choose growth through suffering, you may find that your perception of suffering itself begins to shift. What once seemed like insurmountable obstacles may begin to appear as stepping stones on your path of evolution. The discomfort you feel may begin to be tinged with excitement, with the anticipation of the growth and expansion that lies on the other side. This shift in perception is a sign of your growing alignment with your divine nature. For from the perspective of your highest self, all experiences, even those we might label as suffering, are opportunities for growth, for the expression of your true nature. But, my dear friends, I must caution you. This path of conscious growth, of willingly embracing suffering for the sake of your evolution, is not always easy. There will be times when you falter, when the discomfort seems too great, when you long to retreat to the familiar and comfortable. In these moments, be gentle with yourself. Remember that you are in the process of a profound transformation. Just as the caterpillar might struggle within the chrysalis, so too will you have moments of doubt, of fear. But here's the beautiful truth. Even in these moments of struggle, you are growing. Even when you feel lost or overwhelmed, the process of transformation is still unfolding within you. For the very act of choosing this path, of willingly stepping into the chrysalis of transformation, has set in motion forces beyond your current understanding. So, in those difficult moments, I urge you to return to your imagination. See yourself as the butterfly you are becoming. Feel the strength, the beauty, the freedom that awaits you on the other side of this transformation. Let this vision sustain you, guide you. Pull you forward even when the path seems dark or uncertain. And remember, my beloved, you are never alone in this process. The God within you, your own wonderful human imagination, is always with you, always supporting you, always guiding you towards your highest good. Lean on this inner power. Trust in the process. Have faith in your own divine nature and its ability to carry you through any challenge, any suffering, toward your ultimate growth and realization. Now let's address another aspect of this principle. The role of resistance in our growth process. You see, when we decide to grow, when we choose to step out of our comfort zones and embrace the suffering that comes with transformation, we often encounter resistance. This resistance can come from within ourselves, in the form of doubts, fears, or old habits. It can also come from the world around us, from people or circumstances that seem to oppose our growth. It is a profound truth. This resistance is not an obstacle to our growth. In fact, it is an essential part of the growth process. Just as a seed must push against the soil to sprout and grow, so too must we push against resistance to realize our full potential. Think of it this way. If there were no resistance, no challenge, no suffering to move through, how would we grow? How would we discover the depths of our strength, the extent of our capabilities, the true nature of our divine selves? So when you encounter resistance on your path of growth, do not be discouraged. Instead, see it as a sign that you are on the right track. See it as an opportunity to flex your spiritual muscles, to deepen your commitment to your growth, to more fully embody your divine nature. And remember, my dear friends, that your response to this resistance is a choice. You can choose to see it as an insurmountable obstacle, as a reason to give up or turn back. Or you can choose to see it as a teacher, as a catalyst for your growth, as the very means by which you will become more than you currently are. Again, this is where the power of your imagination comes into play. When you encounter resistance, use your God-given power of imagination to see beyond it. Imagine yourself moving through the resistance with ease and grace. Feel the strength and determination flowing through you. See yourself emerging on the other side stronger, wiser, more fully aligned with your true nature. As you hold this image in your mind, as you assume the feeling of having already overcome the resistance, you set in motion the forces that will make this vision a reality. For remember, your imagination is not mere fantasy. It is the creative power of the universe expressing itself through you. Now, let us delve into another crucial aspect of this principle. The importance of faith in the growth process. When we choose to grow through suffering, when we willingly step into the chrysalis of transformation, we are often stepping into the unknown. We cannot always see the end from the beginning. We cannot always know exactly how we will emerge on the other side. This is where faith comes in. Not blind faith, not passive acceptance, but an active, living faith in the divine process of growth and transformation. A faith in your own divine nature and its ability to guide you through any challenge, any suffering towards your ultimate good. This faith, my beloved, is not something outside of you. It is not something you need to acquire or earn. It is an inherent part of your divine nature, a natural expression of the God within you. To access this faith, you need only to turn within, to connect with the deepest part of yourself, the part that knows the truth of who you are and what you are capable of becoming. So, as you embrace the suffering that comes with growth, I urge you to cultivate this faith. Nurture it through your imagination, through your conscious choice to trust in the process even when you cannot see the outcome. Let this faith be your anchor in moments of doubt, your light in times of darkness. And remember, this faith is not about believing that everything will always be easy or comfortable. It's about trusting that everything you experience, including the suffering, the challenges, the resistance, is ultimately serving your growth, your evolution, your self-realization. Now let us address a question that may be arising in your minds. Neville, how do we discern between the suffering that leads to growth and needless suffering that only holds us back? This, my dear friends, is a crucial distinction. For not all suffering leads to growth. There is suffering that comes from resistance to what is, from holding on to what no longer serves us, from refusing to align with our true nature. This kind of suffering does not lead to growth, but to stagnation and frustration. The suffering that leads to growth, on the other hand, is always aligned with your highest vision for yourself. It is the discomfort that comes from stepping out of your comfort zone, from challenging your limitations, from aligning yourself more fully with your divine nature. This suffering has a purpose, a direction, a transformative power. To discern between these two types of suffering, you must cultivate deep self-awareness. You must be willing to honestly examine your motivations, your desires, your fears. Ask yourself, is this suffering moving me towards my highest vision for myself? Is it challenging me to grow, to expand, to more fully embody my divine nature? Or is it keeping me stuck, repeating old patterns, resisting my own evolution? In conclusion, my beloved, remember this. To grow, you must suffer. But this suffering is not a punishment, not a burden, but a gift. It is the means by which you shed your limitations, realize your potential, and step into the fullness of your divine nature. Embrace it with courage, with faith, with the knowledge that on the other side of this suffering lies a version of you that is more aligned, more powerful, more fully expressive of your true divine self. Go forth and grow, my dear friends. The universe awaits your blossoming.
Let us understand what a coming back truly is. It is not merely a return to a former state of glory or success. No, my dear friends, a true comeback is a complete rebirth, a total transformation of your being. It is the realization of your divine nature, the awakening to the God within you that has been sleeping, waiting for this very moment to arise and claim its rightful place in your consciousness. You see, the world you perceive around you is nothing but a reflection of your own consciousness. Every circumstance, every person, every event in your life is but an outpicturing of your inner state. And it is this fundamental truth that holds the key to your greatest comeback. Many of you sit here today, perhaps feeling defeated, worn down by life's challenges, or simply yearning for something more. You may look at your current circumstances and wonder, how can I possibly make a comeback from this? But I tell you now, with absolutely, that the power to transform your life lies within you at this very moment. The secret, my friends, is this: you must first make your comeback in your imagination. For your imagination is not some fanciful toy of the mind, but the very workshop of God. It is the creative power of the universe, given to you to shape and mold your reality as you see fit. Consider for a moment the life you truly desire. See it clearly in your mind's eye. Feel the emotions associated with living that life. Experience the joy, the fulfillment, the sense of purpose that comes with it. This is not mere daydreaming or wishful thinking. This is the first step in making your greatest comeback a reality. For you see, when you imagine yourself in the state of your desired comeback, you are actually experiencing that reality in a dimension beyond time and space. In that realm, your comeback has already happened. You have already triumphed. You have already become the person you aspire to be. Now, some of you may be thinking, but Neville, how can simply imagining something make it real? And to that, I say, everything in this world was once imagined before it became manifest. The clothes you wear, the chair you sit on, the very building we're in, all of these were first conceived in someone's imagination before they took physical form. Your life is no different. It is a product of your imagination, whether you have been conscious of it or not. Every experience you've had Every circumstance you find yourself in is the result of the stage you have occupied in your imagination. So if you want to make your biggest comeback, you must first experience it fully in your imagination. You must live from the end, as if your comeback has already occurred. This is the art of revision, of rewriting your story not as it appears to be, but as you wish it to be. Let me share with you a simple technique to aid you in this process. Tonight, as you lay your head upon your pillow, close your eyes and imagine a scene that would imply your comeback is complete. Perhaps it's a conversation with a friend congratulating you on your success. Maybe it's the feeling of standing on a stage, receiving an award for your achievements. Or it could be as simple as looking at yourself in the mirror and seeing the confident, fulfilled person you've become. Whatever scene you choose, make it as vivid and real as possible. Engage all your senses. Feel the emotions associated with this achievement. And most importantly, have the sense of naturalness about it, as if this is simply who you are and how your life is. As you fall asleep in this state, you are impressing this new reality upon your subconscious mind. And your subconscious, my friends, is the hidden operator that shapes your outer world. It knows no limitations, no obstacles. It will work tirelessly to bring about the conditions necessary for your imagined state to become your physical reality. Now I can hear some of you thinking, but what about action? Don't we need to do something to make our comeback a reality? And to that I say, of course, action is part of the process. But it is inspired action, action that flows naturally from your new state of consciousness. You see, when you truly live from the end in your imagination, when you fully embody the state of your desired comeback, your actions will automatically align with that reality. You will find yourself naturally doing the things that someone in that state would do. Opportunities will present themselves, and you will be inspired to take advantage of them. This is the true meaning of the biblical phrase, faith without works is dead. Your faith, which is nothing more than your persistent imagination of the desired state, will inevitably lead to works. But these works are not the cause of your comeback. They are the effect. Let me illustrate this with a story. There was once a man who had lost everything: his business, his savings, his reputation. He was, by all outward appearances, a failure. But this man understood the power of imagination. Every night he would fall asleep imagining himself as a successful businessman once again. He would feel the satisfaction of running a thriving company, the joy of providing for his family, the pride of having rebuilt his reputation. At first, nothing seemed to change in his outer world, but he persisted in his imaginal act, night after night. Then one day he had an idea for a new business venture. It seemed to come out of nowhere, but in reality, it was the natural outgrowth of his new state of consciousness. He pursued this idea with enthusiasm, and within a year, he had not only regained his former success, but had far surpassed it. This, my friends, is the pattern of all great comebacks. They begin in the imagination, take root in the subconscious, and then bloom in the outer world. Your job is not to figure out how your comeback will happen, but to live so completely in the end result that it has no choice but to manifest. Now let us delve deeper into the nature of your being, for this is crucial to understanding how you'll come to make your biggest comeback. You are not merely a physical body, limited by time and space. You are a divine being, a spark of the infinite consciousness that creates and sustains all of existence. Your true self is not bound by your past experiences or your current circumstances. It exists in a state of pure potential, capable of expressing itself in infinite ways. When you grasp this truth, truly grasp it, you will understand that there are no limits to the comeback you can make. Think about it. If you are in essence the very power that creates worlds, what comeback could possibly be beyond your reach? The only limits that exist are those you have accepted in your own mind. And what the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. So I ask you now, what is the grandest vision you have for your comeback? What is the most magnificent expression of your potential that you can imagine? Allow yourself to dream big, for the universe knows no distinction between small dreams and large ones. To the infinite, all things are equally possible. Perhaps your comeback involves becoming a leader in your field, revolutionizing an industry, or creating a work of art that touches millions of lives. Maybe it's about healing a relationship that seemed beyond repair, or finding a level of inner peace and fulfillment never think. Whatever it is, know that it is within your power to achieve it. But remember, the key is not just to think about your comeback or to wish for it, but to experience it fully in your imagination. You must feel the reality of it with every fiber of your being. You must walk, talk, and breathe as the person who has already made this comeback. This may seem challenging at first, especially if your current circumstances seem far removed from your desired state. But I assure you, with practice, it will become second nature. And as you persist in this practice, you will begin to see your outer world shift to match your inner experience. Now, let me address a concern that often arises when discussing this principle. Some of you may be wondering, what about other people? Don't they have a say in my comeback? And to that I say, the people and circumstances in your life are not separate from you. They are reflections of your consciousness, playing the parts you have assigned to them in the drama of your life. As you change your concept of yourself, as you live from the state of your completed comeback, you will find that others naturally adjust to support your new reality. Those who cannot align with your new state will fade from your experience, while new individuals who resonate with your achieved comeback will enter your life. This is not manipulation or control of others. It is simply the law of your own being. You are the author of your life story, and as you rewrite that story in your imagination, the characters and settings will naturally adapt to fit the new narrative. Consider the example of a caterpillar transforming into a butterfly. As the caterpillar undergoes its metamorphosis, its entire world changes. It no longer relates to its environment in the same way. Its food, its habitat, its very way of being shifts dramatically. Yet this transformation doesn't require the caterpillar to manipulate its surroundings. The change happens from within, and the outer world naturally conforms to support the new state of being. Your comeback is no different. As you transform internally, embodying the state of your achieved comeback, your world will rearrange itself to support this new you. This is the true meaning of the phrase, when the student is ready, the teacher appears when you are ready. When you have fully assumed the state of your comeback in your imagination, all that you need to support that state will appear in your life. Now let's address another vital aspect of making your biggest comeback, the role of persistence. You see, the power of your imagination is absolute, but the manifestation of your imagined state in the physical still world often requires time. The seed you plant in your subconscious mind through your imaginal acts needs time to germinate and grow. During this period, it may seem as though nothing is happening. Your outer world may appear unchanged, or you may even face challenges that seem to contradict your desired outcome. This is the time when many people give up, concluding that their imaginal work didn't work. But I tell you now, this is precisely the time when you must persist most fervently in your imaginal acts. Remember, your senses show you the world as it is, not as it will be. They reflect the harvest of seeds planted in the past. Your imagination, on the other hand, is planting new seeds for future harvests. You must have the faith to water these seeds with your continued attention and belief, even when there is no physical evidence of growth. Think of it like this. If you were to plant a seed in your garden, you wouldn't dig it up every day to see if it's growing, would you? No, you would plant the seed, water it regularly, and trust in the natural process of growth. Your imaginal act is the seed. Your persistence in living from the end is the water and sunlight. And your faith is the fertile soil in which this seed will grow. So how do you maintain this persistence? How do you continue to live from the end when your senses scream that nothing has changed? The key is to fall in love with your imagined state. Make it so real, so vivid, so delightful that you prefer it to your current reality. Immerse yourself in it so completely that you almost forget your former state. This is not about escaping reality or deluding yourself. It's about understanding that your imagination is the most real, most causative dimension of your being. It is the dimension where all change begins. By living there, by making your home in the state of your completed comeback, you set in motion the forces that will bring it into the physical manifestation. Let me share with you another technique to aid in this persistence. Throughout your day, whenever you have a quiet moment, ask yourself this question: how would I feel right now if my comeback were complete then? Allow yourself to feel those emotions fully. Feel the confidence, the joy, the sense of accomplishment. Let these feelings permeate your entire being. This practice serves two purposes. First, it keeps you aligned with the state of your desired comeback throughout your day, not just during your dedicated imaginal sessions. Second, it trains your mind to focus on the feeling of the wish fulfilled, rather than the absence of what you desire. Remember, what you focus on expands. By consistently focusing on the feeling of your achieved comeback, you amplify its reality in your consciousness. Now, let's address a common pitfall that many encounter on the path to their comeback: the temptation to share their vision prematurely. In your excitement about your imagined state, you may feel compelled to tell others about your plans for a comeback. I caution you against this. You see, your imaginal act is a sacred thing. It is a seed planted in the fertile soil of your subconscious mind. Exposing this tender seedling to the harsh light of others' opinions and doubts can wither it before it has a chance to take root. Moreover, speaking about your comeback as a future event reinforces its status as something you lack, rather than something you have already achieved in your imagination. Instead, I encourage you to nurture your vision in the quiet of your own consciousness. Let it grow strong and vital within you. When others begin to see the fruits of your come-up manifesting in your life, they will ask you about it. And then, if you choose, you can share your story as a testament to the power of imagination. This principle of silence is beautifully illustrated in the biblical story of Mary, the mother of Jesus after the Annunciation, when she was told she would bear the Son of God. The scripture says, "But Mary kept all these things and pondered them in her heart." She didn't rush to tell everyone about the miraculous event that was to come. She held it within, allowing it to gestate both physically and spiritually. Your comeback is your own personal annunciation. It is the divine speaking to you, revealing the greatness that you are capable of manifesting. Honor it with your silence, nurture it with your unwavering belief, and watch as it comes to fruition in ways that will astonish you. As we continue our exploration of making your biggest comeback, let us turn our attention to another crucial aspect, the release of your past. Many of you may be carrying the weight of past failures, disappointments, or traumas. These experiences can seem like insurmountable obstacles to your comeback, but I tell you now, they are only obstacles if you allow them to be. You see, your past has no power over you except the power you give it through your attention and belief. The events of your past are not fixed, immutable facts. They are simply states you once occupied in consciousness, and just as you entered those states, you have the power to leave them behind. This is where the art of revision comes into play. Revision is not about denying what happened, but about reinterpreting it in a way that serves your desired state. It's about extracting the gift, the lesson, the growth opportunity from every experience, no matter how painful it might have been. Let me give you a practical exercise in revision. Tonight, before you sleep, review the events of your day. But instead of simply recalling what happened, reimagine them as you would have liked them to be. If you had a disagreement with someone, reimagine it as a harmonious interaction. If you faced a challenge at work, reimagine yourself handling it with ease and confidence. As you do this, you're not changing the past in a literal sense. What you're doing is far more powerful. You're changing your relationship to the past. You're rewriting the story in your subconscious mind, creating new patterns of thought and behavior that will shape your future experiences. This practice of revision can be extended to any event in your past that you feel is holding you back from your comeback. Perhaps there was a business venture that failed, a relationship that ended painfully, or a missed opportunity that you've been regretting. Take each of these experiences and revise them in your imagination. See them playing out in a way that supports your comeback. For instance, if you had a business failure in the past, reimagine it as a valuable learning experience that prepared you for your current success. If a relationship ended, see it as clearing the way for a more fulfilling partnership. If you missed an opportunity, imagine that an even better opportunity arose as a result. As you practice this revision, you'll find that your past loses its grip on you. It no longer defines you or limits you. Instead, it becomes a rich tapestry of experiences, all contributing to your growth and ultimate comeback. Remember, time is a construct of consciousness. In the realm of imagination, which is your true home, all times exist simultaneously. This means that your past, present, and future are all accessible and changeable from the eternal now of your consciousness. By revising your past, you are literally creating a new platform from which to launch your comeback. Now let's delve into another powerful concept that will aid you in making your biggest comeback, the law of assumption. This law states that if you assume a certain state to be true and persist in that assumption, it must harden into fact in your ficting or physical reality. This means that to make your comeback, you must assume the state of having already made that comeback. You must think from it, not of it. There's a crucial difference here. Thinking of your comeback places it in the future, always just out of reach. Thinking from your comeback means embodying it fully in the present moment. How do you do this? Begin by asking yourself, if I had already made my biggest comeback, how would I think? How would I feel? How would I carry myself? What would my daily routines look like? Then start living as if these things were already true. If your comeback involves becoming a successful entrepreneur, start setting your alarm as if you had important meetings to attend. Dress as if you were already leading a thriving company. Speak with the confidence of someone who has already achieved great success. If your comeback is about regaining your health and vitality, Start eating and moving as if you were already in peak physical condition. Go to bed early as if you valued your rest. Look in the mirror and see the vibrant, healthy person you are becoming. This might feel like pretending at first, and in a sense it is. But remember, all of physical reality began as a pretense in someone's imagination. Your current circumstances, which seem so solid and real, were once just a state assumed in consciousness. As you persist in assuming your new state, you will begin to notice subtle shifts in your outer world. People may start treating you differently. Opportunities that align with your assumed state will begin to appear. You'll find yourself naturally taking actions that support your comeback. This is the bridge of incidents, a series of events that leads from your current state to your desired state. You don't need to plan this bridge or figure out how it will be built. Your only job is to stay faithful to your assumed state, and the bridge will form beneath your feet as you walk. Now, I can hear some of you thinking, but Neville, what if I assume this state and nothing happens? What if I fail to this? I say failure is impossible if you persist in your assumption. What appears as failure is simply a moment in time, a point on the bridge of incidents. It's not the end of the story unless you decide it is. Remember, the only place where your comeback can be aborted is in your own imagination. As long as you hold true to your assumed state, as long as you continue to live from the end, your comeback is inevitable. It must come to pass, for that is the law of your being. Let me share a story to illustrate this point. There was once a man who dreamed of becoming a great actor. He assumed the state of being a celebrated performer, living from it day and night in his imagination. He went to auditions, confident in his assumed state, but faced rejection after rejection. Many would have given up at this point, concluding that their imaginal act had failed. But this man persisted. He continued to live from the state of being a successful actor, even as he worked menial jobs to support himself. He treated each rejection as merely a scene in the movie of his life, knowing that the grand finale would be his ultimate success. And indeed, after years of persistence, he got his big break. Today, he is one of the most recognized and respected actors in the world. This man's story is a testament to the power of persistent assumption. He did not allow temporary setbacks to dislodge him from his assumed state. He knew that his outer world had to conform to his inner conviction eventually. And so it did. Your comeback story can be just as powerful, just as inspiring. But it requires the same level of persistence, the same unshakable faith in your assumed state. No matter what your senses tell you, no matter what challenges you face, you must continue to live from the state of your completed comeback. This persistence is not about gritting your teeth and pushing through difficulty. It's about so falling in love with your assumed state that you cannot bear to leave it. It's about making your imagined reality so vivid, so real, so delightful that it eclipses your current circumstances. As you continue on this journey of making your biggest comeback, I want to address something that many of you may be experiencing, the feeling of impatience. You may find yourself constantly looking for signs that your comeback is manifesting, anxiously waiting for your outer world to catch up with your flow. This impatience, my dear friends, is one of the greatest obstacles to the realization of your desires. You see, impatience implies lack. When you are impatient for your comeback to manifest, you are affirming that you do not have it now. This puts you in a state of wanting rather than a state of having. And the universe, which knows only how to match your inner state, will continue to give you more of that wanting. The key is to cultivate a sense of calm assurance. Know that your comeback is already complete in the realm of imagination, which is the only true reality. Your three-dimensional world is merely catching up to what is already finished in consciousness. Think of it like this: when you plant a seed in the ground, you stand over it day after day, impatiently waiting for it to sprout. No, you plant the seed and then go about your life, trusting in the natural process of growth. You don't doubt that the seed will grow just because you can't see what's happening beneath the soil. Your imaginal act is like that seed. Once you have planted it in the fertile soil of your subconscious mind, through your assumption of the state of your completed comeback, your work is done. Now you must allow it the time and space to germinate and grow. This doesn't mean you become passive. Rather, you continue to live from your assumed state, taking inspired action when it presents itself, but without anxiety or impatience. You move through your days with the calm confidence of someone who knows their good is already secured. To help you cultivate this attitude, I offer you this simple practice. Whenever you find yourself feeling impatient or anxious about your comeback, pause and take a deep breath. Then say to yourself, my comeback is already complete. I am experiencing it now in my imagination. and I know that my outer world must conform to this inner reality. I relax and allow this process to unfold in its perfect timing. By affirming this truth and releasing your attachment to when and how your comeback will manifest, you open yourself to receive it. You create a state of receptivity in your consciousness, allowing your good to flow to you unimpeded by doubt or impatience. Now let us explore another vital aspect of making your biggest comeback: the release of limiting beliefs. Each of you carries within you a set of beliefs about yourself and the world. These beliefs, whether you're conscious of them or not, shape your experiences and determine the extent of your comeback. Many of these beliefs were formed in childhood or through past experiences, and they may no longer serve you. Beliefs like "I'm not good enough," "success is hard," or "I always fail in the end" can act as invisible barriers to your comeback. The good news is that beliefs are not fact. They are simply thoughts that you have thought so often that they have become habitual. And just as you formed these beliefs, you have the power to change them. The first step in changing a limiting belief is to become aware of it. Pay attention to your self-talk, to the thoughts that run through your mind when you think about your comeback. When you notice a thought that doesn't align with your desired state, pause and question it. Is it really true? Can you absolutely know that it's true? How does believing this thought make you feel? Who would you be without this thought? Once you've identified a limiting belief, you can begin to replace it with a empowering belief that supports your comeback. For instance, if you've been holding the belief "I'm not good enough," you might replace it with "I am more than enough, and I have all the resources within me to make my biggest comeback." Remember, your subconscious mind doesn't distinguish between what's real and what's imagined. By consistently thinking and feeling from your new belief, you impress it upon your subconscious, and it begins to manifest in your outer world. This process of changing beliefs is not always easy. You may encounter resistance from your old patterns of thinking, but persist, my friends. Every time you choose your new belief over the old one, you weaken the old neural pathway and strengthen the new one. Over time, your new empowering belief will become as natural and automatic as the old one once was. As you work on releasing limiting beliefs, you may find that certain people or situations in your life seem to challenge your new state. Perhaps family members or friends express doubt about your ability to make a comeback. Or maybe circumstances arise that appear to contradict your assumed state. In these moments, remember this fundamental truth: everyone and everything in your world is you pushed out. The doubts expressed by others are merely reflections of your own doubts. The challenging circumstances are opportunities for you to strengthen your faith in your assumed state. Instead of reacting to these seeming obstacles, use them as opportunities to deepen your commitment to your new state. When someone expresses doubt, silently reaffirm your belief in your comeback. When a challenging situation arises, ask yourself, how would I handle this if my comeback were already complete? Then act from that state. By doing this, you are not only reinforcing your new state in your own consciousness, but you are also transforming the consciousness of those around you. Remember, as you change, your entire world must change to match your new vibration. Now, let us delve into the power of gratitude in manifesting your biggest comeback. Gratitude is not just a pleasant emotion. It is a powerful creative force. When you are grateful, you are affirming that you already have what you desire. This aligns you with the frequency of your completed comeback, drawing it into your physical experience. Begin and end each day with gratitude for your comeback as if it has already happened. Feel the joy, the relief, the sense of accomplishment. Give thanks for the specific aspects of your comeback, the success, the relationships, the experiences it brings. Make this gratitude so real that you can feel it in every cell of your body. As you do this, you may notice that you begin to feel grateful for your current circumstances, even if they seem far from your desired state. This is a powerful shift. By finding things to appreciate in your present situation, you raise your vibration and become more receptive to the good that is coming to you. Remember, the universe doesn't distinguish between gratitude for what you have and gratitude for what you desire. It responds to the feeling of gratitude itself. So by cultivating an attitude of gratitude, you create a powerful, attractive force that accelerates the manifestation of your comeback. As we near the conclusion of our discussion on making your biggest comeback, I want to address a question that may be arising in some of your minds. What if I've tried all this before and it didn't work? My dear friends, if you find yourself thinking this, I want you to consider something profound. The very fact that you're here listening to these words, contemplating the possibility of your comeback, is evidence that your desire for transformation is alive within you. This desire is not your own. It is the universe, God, the divine, whatever name you choose to give it, seeking to express itself through you in a new and expanded way. Your desire for a comeback is a promise of its fulfillment, for you would not have the desire if you did not also have the capacity to achieve it. The presence of the desire is proof of the presence of the capacity to fulfill it. So if you've tried before and didn't see the results you wanted, know this: you have not failed. You have simply been preparing. Every attempt, every setback, every moment of doubt has been shaping you, refining you, making you ready for this moment now. Perhaps in the past, you didn't fully understand the power of your imagination. Perhaps you didn't persist in your assumption long enough. Or perhaps the timing wasn't right, and the universe was arranging circumstances in your favor behind the scenes. Whatever the case, know that all of your past experiences have led you to this moment, where you are now ready to make your biggest comeback. As we come to the end of this talk, I want to leave you with this final thought. Your comeback is not just about you. Yes, it will transform your life in magnificent ways, but more than that, it will impact countless others. As you step into your greatness, as you allow the God within you to express itself fully, you become an inspiration to others. Your comeback becomes a beacon of hope, showing others what is possible when one fully embraces the power of their imagination. So, my dear friends, I challenge you now. Go forth and make your biggest comeback. Live from the state of its completion. Feel it, believe it, become it in your imagination. Persist in this assumption, no matter what your senses may tell you. Release the old, embrace the new, and watch as your world transforms before your eyes. Remember, you are not merely making a comeback. You are awakening to the truth of who you really are, a divine being, one with the creative power of the universe. Your comeback is your birthright. Claim it now in your imagination, and it must become your reality. Thank you, and may your biggest comeback be even greater than you can imagine.